witless entertainment, and none of this satisfies, because what people really feel deprived of is an authentic sense of their own being and their own importance in the natural scheme of things. And culture just cannot respond to that unless it makes a place for the transcendence of itself. And of course, we tolerate all kinds of foolish and somewhat self-indulgent religions because they are such pale reflections of this need that they really pose no threat to the real agenda of culture, which is work, 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 consume, consume, consume.
Sure. In Food of the Gods, you suggest that human consciousness may have evolved from that of its hominid forebears as a result of hominids having incorporated hallucinogenic mushrooms into their diet. I was wondering, what is the earliest evidence for the use of mushrooms in human history that we have?
I think probably the earliest evidence, that I would consider having any particular weight is there are rupestris images, meaning rock-chipped images in the Tassili Plateau in southern Algeria that they keep dating these things older and older, and I think they've got them pushed back now to about 12,000 years ago. And there we see shamans with mushrooms sprouting out of their bodies and fists full of mushrooms. This kind of evidence, though, has never been sought, and in the areas where I think you're most likely to find it, no digging has ever been done, specifically in southern Algeria. You could do pollinological studies looking for mushroom spores. You could try to find yet more remote and older representations of these mushrooms using shamans. The great embarrassment of ordinary evolutionary theory, you see, is the very dramatic explosion in human brain size over a very short period of evolutionary time. One evolutionary biologist, Lumholtz, called it the most dramatic transformation of a major organ of a higher animal in the entire fossil record. Well, it's a great embarrassment to evolution, because notice that is the organ which created the theory of evolution. So if we can't account for its origin, then we've run up a ladder that has a resting place. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So something extraordinary was impinging on the proto-hominid situation, let's say from, 125,000 to 25,000 years ago. And all other theories have failed. And I've concentrated on psilocybin, but really when I talk to my peers in this field, what I'm really saying is what we need to look at is diet. Diet is one of the major factors affecting rates of mutation in any species. And the reason most species of animals have very defined and specialized diets is that's a conservative evolutionary strategy to limit exposure to mutagenic compounds and hence to mutation. And when a species gets under nutritional pressure and starts trying foods previously considered marginal or unacceptable, why, naturally, that means that the genome is going to be exposed to this chemical stress through the food chain, and you're going to get more birth deformities, blindness, low IQ, low birth weight, but you're also going to get the very rare positive mutation, and the rate of those positive mutations will also be concomitantly kicked upward a little. So I think that the place to look to understand the breakout in human evolution is that period when we changed from a canopy-dwelling forest creature to a semi-omnivorous ground-dwelling grassland creature. And the subsequent shifts in diet and the upheavals in the exposure to various chemicals made many changes in human beings, and the psilocybin simply is one of the more dramatic, and we can construct a scenario with psilocybin that I think is very appealing to evolutionary biologists, because it shows how psilocybin, by incrementally contributing slight advantages, could have worked its way toward being a major chemical influence on the evolution of brain architecture and consciousness.
In information theory, there exists the much-used metaphor of a signal that originates from its source and then becomes entropically degraded by noise as it travels through space and time. Likewise, in Food of the Gods, you trace an arc of historical diffusion of an originally mushroom-using goddess society in North Africa, the Tassili, and follow as it travels across Asia Minor and up into Anatolian Çatalhöyük, from which it in turn migrates to Minoan Crete. And then finally the Greeks, of course, take up this goddess culture in the much reduced form of the Eleusinian mysteries, in which the hallucinogenic ergot may have been used, just as the Cretans may have used opium. So my question is, do you have any idea exactly where along this path or why it was that mushroom usage died out?
Oh, yeah. I link it entirely to slow changes in climate. In other words, probably 100,000 to 125,000 years ago was the optimum in terms of size and extent of rainfall, the optimum overlap of mushroom ecosystems, psilocybin mushroom ecosystems, and human habitat. Because all of North Africa was vast grasslands with evolving ungulate animals and many streams flowing out of the highlands and so forth. And that grassland had arisen itself out of a climatic change. Before that, at an even earlier time, there had been forest. But as the grassland over millennia gave way to desert, the mushrooms, their range, their availability, possibly their potency, all underwent retraction and diminution. And as that process proceeded, the human population then either went without or began to seek substitutes. And no substitute really has the same effect as the original, and so you get early beer cults, you get the fermenting of fruit juices into wine, you get experimentation with hemp and opium. But it was simply a series of climatological disasters that, and then the ultimate, the thing which put the kibosh on the whole thing, which was also a response to this climatological change, was the invention of agriculture. And I think Fraser in The Golden Bough says something about when the gods turned into foods, the great orgies and celebrations became marginalized, because what really the cultural values that became important at that time were the ability to get up early in the morning and pick up your hoe and go to work. So,
something I'm not fond of either.
Well, you're probably too psychedelic.
I have two more questions here, and this one is that some scholars have said that the consumption of hallucinogens is a poor substitute for the long, hard road of spiritual discipline that it takes, they claim, to become truly enlightened. How do you respond to